President Obama signed an executive order to close Guantanamo Bay, but still to this day, the administration has not released any details on what they plan to do with the remaining 241 suspected terrorists that are still housed there. Well, the House Republican Conference has released a video to remind the administration of the kind of people that we're talking about at Gitmo. Let's take a look.
FAA has banned all takeoffs at all airports across America.
A wire now saying another aircraft, unbelievably, has crashed into the Pentagon.
Now, earlier today, Eric Holder was grilled on whether or not detainees would be released here in the United States. His comments may not be too reassuring to you. Let's take a look at that.
We're going to be making decisions with regard to these people. Some are going to be released, some are going to be tried, some will be detained on a fairly extended basis. And so those who will be released are those who we think can be released and be released on a safe basis.
And joining us now with reaction is the host of War Stories and the author of American Heroes in Fight Against Radical Islam. Colonel Oliver North is back with us. A very powerful piece, Colonel. I don't think it can be said any better.
It is, and that's the first time the American people have seen it. I can almost predict to you that by tomorrow morning the left will go crazy. The fact that the Republicans have produced this to remind the American people who those 241 detainees are at Guantanamo. 241 of the most dangerous people on earth. Eric Holder saying again today, as he's repeatedly said, well, some of them are going to be released. Where? In Yemen, so they can go back and join the jihad against us? Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, Sean. And quite frankly, there is no precedent for that in any war we have ever fought, and we are at war.
Well, a lot of people seem to be forgetting that. But there was even talk, Colonel, that they were going to release them here in the United States and actually give them taxpayer money at one point.
Yeah.
You know, in other words, that they'd be in towns and cities all across the United States and be given, you know, constitutional rights.
There are 17 Chinese Uyghurs who were picked up in Pakistan who've been detained in Guantanamo since shortly after 9/11. They were all trained in al-Qaeda camps. They've all been given training in how to build bombs, how to kill themselves, and they've practiced at it. These guys have been detained down there. They can't be sent back to China because we're not going to send people back to China that can be put to death. And so what are they going to do with these guys? We're going to find them a nice community like Winchester, Virginia to turn them loose? I hope not. That's pretty close to where I live.
Look, one of the things is, it reminds me of the Darryl Worley song, Have You Forgotten? It seems, you know, we seem to be letting our guard down again. Seems to be that we're, you know, letting our defenses down again. I mean, these are the worst of the worst. People we know that were responsible, you know, for the terror attacks on 9/11 and others. Why would the president even do this? And then at this point, he's not even funding the close down.
Well, in fact, he promised he would do it, and so this is another one of those campaign promises that he's now stuck with, because no one has a plan for where these folks are going to go. There's no country that the president's talked to or that our State Department has talked to that's agreed to take any one of them. And on top of that, we now know that some of those who were released down there have gone back and joined the jihad, killed American troops, killed others, and in fact killed themselves. And so the solution to this is not a simple one as it was made to appear during the campaign. Interestingly enough, Adam Schiff, who's a Democrat congressman from California, suggested today that we ought to give these cold-blooded murderers, housed at Gitmo, and I quote, the same due process rights as American troops. It doesn't make any sense, Sean, and I think what this video does is remind the American people how serious this really is.
We've never in the history of warfare ever given constitutional rights to enemy combatants. These are enemies. It's just a different battlefield that we've had in past wars. What do you make of, I'm a little concerned, and we discussed this with Karl Rove last night. You see the Taliban on the march. They're coming, reinforcements coming out of the caves. They're going into Pakistan. They're less than 60 miles out. 500,000 people chased out of their homes, and they're right on the path to get Pakistan's nukes. Are you concerned the Taliban can get some of the nukes in Pakistan?
Oh, I think we ought to be very concerned, notwithstanding all the the love and warmth that came out of the so-called summit that was held here yesterday in Washington, when you've got the Pakistani president, you got the Afghan president, and the American president all putting their arms around each other. In fact, there is no solution that they've come up with, and on top of that, the assurances that those nuclear weapons are going to be, quote, safe, or that we've got some contingency plan to deal with it, quite frankly, is just as phony as Barack Obama saying last week in his press conference that Gitmo had already been closed. It's phony.
I tell you what, this is a real important issue for our national security. It's important we don't go back to a pre-9/11 mentality. That ad is hard-hitting. Let's engage the Democrats in this debate. Let the American people see that and think if that's a good idea. Colonel, good to see you.
Well, the American people need to ask their representatives, where would you release them, and what is your plan? And right now, there is none.
All right, Colonel Oliver North, thanks for being with us.